Do you remember the thrill of trick-or-treating in the 70s, 80s, or 90s? From candy corn to Mr. Bones, Halloween was filled with sweet treasures. Stick around. There's a surprise at the end that you won't want to miss. Candy corn. Did you love or hate candy corn growing up? This iconic Halloween treat has sparked debate for decades, but no one can deny its place as the most festive candy of all time. With its bright orange, yellow, and white layers, candy corn practically screams Halloween. It wasn't just the colors that made it special, it was the ritual of eating it one layer at a time or by the handful, depending on your candy style. Originally created in the late 1800s, candy corn was actually meant to mimic chicken feed. But it wasn't until the 1950s that it truly became a Halloween staple, appearing in trick-or-treat bags everywhere. Whether you loved its sweet, waxy texture or thought it was better left uneaten, it was hard to avoid. Candy corn was practically a given at Halloween parties and in festive bowls at home. Love it or hate it, candy corn holds a special place in Halloween history. But if you thought this was the ultimate Halloween candy, wait until you see what comes next. Mr. Bones candy. Mr. Bones wasn't just candy, he was an experience. Do you remember tearing open the little plastic casket to reveal the skeleton-shaped candy pieces? Part of the fun was assembling the bones into a full skeleton before even thinking about eating them. The candy itself? Well, let's just say it wasn't winning any flavor awards, with its chalky texture and tart sweetness that reminded you of sweet tarts. But that didn't matter. Mr. Bones was all about the novelty. Sold from the late 70s through the mid-90s, Mr. Bones was a Halloween favorite for kids who loved spooky, interactive treats. Each casket had a little ring on one side, so you could wear it as a necklace or a keychain, keeping the skeleton fun alive even after the candy was gone. Whether you played with the bones or just collected the caskets, Mr. Bones remains a nostalgic memory for many who trick-or-treated back then. Do you remember building your own candy skeleton with Mr. Bones? And did you actually eat the candy or just keep the toy? Universal Monsters candy cigarettes. Do you remember pretending to light up with candy cigarettes as a kid? Back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, these were a must-have for trick-or-treaters who wanted to feel just a little rebellious. Candy cigarettes weren't just any treat. They came with a sense of cool that made kids feel like movie stars. Or even better, classic monsters. The Universal Monsters-themed candy cigarettes, featuring iconic characters like Dracula and Frankenstein on the packaging, made these treats even more irresistible. While the candy itself was nothing more than a sweet, chalky stick, the real appeal was pretending to smoke like the monsters on the box. Of course, they didn't taste great, but the fun came from the packaging and the roleplay that followed. You could tap the end of the box, pull out a cigarette, and act like a seasoned smoker, even though you were only munching on sugar. Candy sticks like these have mostly disappeared, but the memories they left behind are still strong. If you thought candy cigarettes were fun, just wait until we dive into the next nostalgic Halloween treat. Caramel apples. There's something about caramel apples that instantly brings back memories of chilly fall evenings and sticky fingers. Do you remember biting into one and feeling the crunchy apple beneath the chewy, sweet caramel coating? Caramel apples were a huge Halloween tradition, especially in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when homemade treats were just as popular as store-bought candy. They weren't just delicious, they were a perfect balance of tartness from the apple and sweetness from the caramel. Often these treats were dipped right at home. Some families kept it simple, just caramel and apple, while others would go all out, adding nuts, chocolate drizzles, or even sprinkles to the mix. For many, bobbing for apples at Halloween parties led straight into enjoying a caramel-coated version right afterward. Caramel apples felt like a special, indulgent treat, and while they may have faded from trick-or-treat bags, they're still a staple at fall fairs and celebrations. Do you remember making or receiving caramel apples on Halloween? And what was your favorite topping, classic caramel or something more adventurous? Popcorn balls. Did your family make popcorn balls during Halloween? This old-fashioned treat was a staple in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, offering a mix of sweet, salty, and crunchy goodness. Whether made at home or bought at fall fairs, popcorn balls were a nostalgic treat that brought people together. The process of melting sugar, butter, and syrup to coat the popcorn made the kitchen smell amazing. Rolling the sticky mixture into perfect spheres took time, but it was always worth it. Homemade popcorn balls were often decorated with festive Halloween colors like orange and black, or even had candy pieces mixed in for an extra layer of sweetness. It wasn't uncommon to find them wrapped in cellophane and handed out at Halloween parties, giving kids a break from the usual chocolate and candy. While they've mostly disappeared from trick-or-treat bags, freshly made popcorn balls remain a nostalgic favorite for many who grew up in those decades. If you loved popcorn balls, you'll want to stick around for the next treat on our list. It might surprise you. Wax lips and canines. Do you remember getting those oversized wax lips or vampire fangs in your Halloween haul? They weren't exactly candy, but they sure were fun. Wax lips and canines were the perfect combination of spooky and silly, turning trick-or-treaters into goofy monsters for the night. Made from brightly colored cherry-flavored wax, they were more of a costume accessory than a snack. Kids would pop them in, strike a pose, and show off their new look before eventually chewing on the wax, which tasted sweet, but was more about texture than flavor. The oversized lips, with their exaggerated shapes, were perfect for goofy photos, while the wax vampire fangs let you live out your Dracula dreams. While they weren't the tastiest treat in your Halloween bag, they certainly stood out for their novelty and fun factor. Wax lips and canines have faded from the Halloween scene, but they remain a nostalgic memory for anyone who grew up in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. Think wax lips were the wildest Halloween treat? Just wait until you see what's coming up next. Candy buttons. Do you remember the excitement of getting a long strip of candy buttons in your Halloween bag? These colorful dots of sugar were a simple treat, but they were always fun to eat. Each strip was lined with tiny candy buttons in bright colors like pink, blue, and yellow. Part of the fun was peeling them off the paper, even if you ended up eating a little bit of the paper along with the candy. The candy itself wasn't the most flavorful, mostly just sugar with a hint of color, but the experience was what made candy buttons so special. The anticipation of seeing which color you'd eat next, and carefully tearing off each dot, kept kids entertained. You might even save a few strips to eat later, knowing you could stretch the fun for a little longer. Candy buttons were more than just candy. They were a mini adventure in every bite. Did you ever get candy buttons in your trick-or-treat bag? And did you have a favorite color to eat first? Pixie Sticks. Do you remember tearing open a Pixie Sticks and pouring the brightly colored powder straight into your mouth? Pixie Sticks were a Halloween favorite, offering kids a quick sugar rush in the form of flavored sugar. These paper straws were filled with sweet, tangy powder in flavors like grape, cherry, and orange. The simple act of ripping off the top and dumping the sugar onto your tongue was half the fun. While the powder was nothing more than flavored sugar, the intense burst of sweetness was what made Pixie Sticks so irresistible. There was something about the tangy edge of the flavors that kept kids coming back for more, even if it left your mouth stained with bright colors. And let's not forget the endless energy surge that followed after finishing a few of these. Whether you dumped the whole thing at once or savored it slowly, Pixie Sticks brought a unique fun factor to Halloween candy. If you thought Pixie Sticks were tangy, wait until you hear about bottle caps. They offered a sweet and fizzy surprise. Bottle caps. Do you remember popping a bottle cap candy into your mouth and tasting that sweet fizzy soda flavor? Shaped just like tiny soda bottle caps, these candies were a standout in Halloween bags. They weren't your typical chocolate or chewy candy. Instead, bottle caps offered a unique blend of sweet and tangy flavors, inspired by popular soda flavors like cola, root beer, orange, and grape. The chalky texture and fizzy taste of bottle caps made them fun to eat, almost like enjoying a mini soda in candy form. They weren't overpoweringly sweet, which set them apart from many of the other sugary treats in your trick-or-treat bag. The mix of flavors also kept things interesting, as you never knew whether you'd get a cola, root beer, or one of the fruitier options next. Bottle caps were more than just a sugary snack. They were a fun, nostalgic treat that brought the soda fountain experience to your candy haul. Did you ever find yourself sorting through your Halloween candy, hoping to score a pack of these fizzy favorites? Smarties. Do you remember unwrapping those tiny rolls of Smarties and popping the pastel-colored tablets into your mouth? These little candies were a Halloween staple, and while they didn't have the decadence of chocolate, their sweet and tangy flavor was always satisfying. Each roll was filled with chalky, crunchy tablets that dissolved quickly, leaving behind a slightly tart finish that kept you reaching for more. The fun of Smarties wasn't just in their flavor, it was also in their simplicity. You could easily slip a few rolls into your pocket and enjoy them throughout the night, trading colors with friends or saving your favorites for last. The candy's mild tartness was a nice break from the heavier, richer sweets in your Halloween haul, making Smarties a reliable go-to for a quick sugar fix. For generations, Smarties have remained a constant in trick-or-treat bags, offering a light, nostalgic treat that always seemed to hit the spot. But if you thought Smarties were fun, just wait until we dive into the next candy. It's a tangy, interactive classic that added an extra layer of fun to your Halloween experience. Fun Dip. Do you remember tearing open a packet of Fun Dip and diving into its sugary goodness? This candy wasn't just about flavor, it added a whole layer of interaction to your Halloween experience. Fun Dip came with a stick of candy, known as the Leica Sticks, and packets of flavored sugar powder that ranged from sweet to tangy. The magic was in licking the candy stick, then dipping it into the powder for a burst of sugar with every bite. The best part was that the candy stick itself was a treat too. After you'd finished dipping it into the powder, you could savor the slightly chalky stick that had absorbed all the flavors. The flavors ranged from classics like cherry and grape to blue raspberry, making it an adventure in every packet. Fun Dip wasn't just about the sugar rush, it was the process that made it so memorable. Whether you dumped all the powder in your mouth or carefully savored each dip, this candy was a true Halloween favorite. Did you ever find yourself saving the candy stick for last, or did you dive into the powder right away? Now and Laters. Do you remember unwrapping a Now and Later and preparing yourself for that first tough bite? These chewy, fruity, taffy-like candies were known for their long-lasting flavor and equally long chew time. Getting through the initial toughness took some effort, but once you sank your teeth into one, the bold flavors like cherry, grape, green apple, and watermelon made it all worthwhile. Now and Laters were the perfect candy for kids who wanted something that wasn't over in a flash. Their intense flavors lingered long after the first bite, giving you plenty of time to savor them. They were also great for trading. If you could handle the chew, you might score a handful of your favorite flavor from friends who found them too tough. The name itself promised a candy that you could enjoy both now and later. And for many kids, that's exactly how it played out. If you thought Now and Laters were tough, wait until we dive into Chico Stick, a crunchy treat with peanut butter and coconut that made its mark in Halloween bags. Chico Stick. Do you remember the thrill of finding a Chico Stick in your Halloween bag? This crunchy, flaky treat may not have been as popular as some of the mainstream candies, but for those who loved it, it was a standout favorite. With its distinct blend of peanut butter and coconut, Chico Stick delivered a rich, satisfying flavor that kept you coming back for more. The texture was part of what made it so special. Each bite was a crispy, crunchy experience, with the peanut butter and coconut creating a sweet, nutty combination that melted in your mouth. It wasn't as flashy as chocolate bars or gummy candies, but Chico Stick had a loyal following, especially among kids who appreciated a candy that was a little different. While it didn't have the same wide appeal as other Halloween treats, those lucky enough to score one in their trick-or-treat bag always felt like they had a hidden gem. Did you ever swap your more common candies to get your hands on a Chico Stick? Or was it one of your secret favorites all along? Atomic Fireballs. If you liked your candy with a serious kick, Atomic Fireballs were the ultimate Halloween treat. These bright red, jawbreaker-style candies started off deceptively sweet, but before long, they unleashed a powerful blast of cinnamon heat. For kids who enjoyed a challenge, Atomic Fireballs were the perfect candy to test just how much spice they could handle. Biting into one wasn't the goal. These fiery treats were meant to be savored slowly, allowing the intense heat to build with each passing second. The longer you held on, the hotter they got, often leaving your mouth tingling with cinnamon spice. Some kids would see who could keep their fireball in the longest, turning it into a Halloween competition among friends. While not everyone could handle the heat, those who loved spicy treats couldn't get enough of Atomic Fireballs. They were a bold, exciting addition to any trick-or-treat haul, offering a flavor experience that stood out from the usual chocolates and sweets. Did you ever take on the challenge of finishing an Atomic Fireball without spitting it out? Or were they too hot to handle? Thanks for joining us on this sweet Halloween journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more nostalgic candy memories. Here's to keeping the Halloween spirit alive.